Well, after all the really shitty stuff you've been through lately, you really want to see your dad?
I don't know. The other night I got a text from him, which are few and far between, and it was a bunch of letters. And I didn't understand it, but it felt like something. He was trying to tell me something, so I thought it was a sign.
Maybe he just sent you a butt text.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Boys Watching Girls, your favorite podcast that breaks down HBO's girls. We are your hosts. I'm Joe Welke.
I'm Vance.
And boy, oh boy, do we have an episode for you all today. We just got finished watching Season 2's Episode 7, Episode 17 overall, entitled Videogames.
I was disappointed that there weren't more video games in it.
There were absolutely no video games in it.
Just a reference. Just a reference.
I just don't understand. But anyway, it was directed by Richard Shepard, written by Bruce Eric Kaplan. Original air date February 24th, 2013. Real low in the viewers, Vance. Real low.
Okay.
Under 500,000.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
484,000 is what the numbers are here.
I will say this isn't a problematic episode at all, or one that's like, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But it's like, it felt like nothing happened, and we'll get into it, but.
It felt boring, but also so much happened, and they were trying to jam a lot of history, and you can understand where people come from, but I also felt like I don't care.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel anything for anybody.
For anyone listening, this is a Jessa episode, so be prepared.
Yeah, it's a Jessa heavy episode, and we all know how your boy feels about Jessa, so it wasn't a pleasant experience for me.
And I would have loved for it to be more Jessa and dealing with her marriage just falling apart than Jessa dealing with her somewhat estranged father who lives really close to New York, I guess.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, it says it lives in upstate New York.
Okay.
But they tried to touch on so many things. Let's just fucking get into it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. We can't really do our usual breakdown of characters because it's pretty much just Jessa and Hannah.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty much the episode from season 1 where Hannah goes home. And this one, it's just, instead of Hannah going home, it's Hannah goes home with Jessa. Or Jessa goes home, and then Hannah just tags along to be comic relief, almost.
Dude, yeah, Hannah was the comic relief in this kind of heavy episode.
Yeah.
But it was heavy in a way that I just didn't care about. I just don't care.
I felt like it also was one of those things where they're redacting Jessa's character. They're trying to just make her more likable. But in the same way they do it in the episode where she's almost putting their lives at danger. So you're kind of feel bad for Jessa. Oh, Jessa's still messed up.
This was supposed to be an episode where it's now we understand why Jessa is the way she is.
Mm-hmm.
But I just left with more questions. I was just well, none of that makes any sense, and that's not in her character, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's just do it. All right, so it starts off with Jessa and Hannah waiting to get on a train. Or waiting, they just got off a train and they're waiting for Jessa's dad to pick them up. And they're just going back and forth and bantering about, oh, my dad always does this. And Hannah's oh, this always gave me anxiety to be the last person picked up and have people think that I have a bad home life. And then Jessa says something about being molested.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I was Jessa writes, she's I might have been molested, maybe? No, I don't know.
Yeah. I was what? Why would you even say that?
And I didn't know if that was something that we're supposed to think is a joke or Like, is that something that we're supposed to be like, oh, Jessa being Jessa?
Yeah, I didn't get it. I was like, why would you bring that up if you didn't do that, or if you weren't molested, or like you're not sure? It just made the situation awkward.
Yeah, I didn't know how to feel about the statement. Like,
yeah,
I was like, is it a joke? Is it not a joke? Or is she repressing? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And the thing about Jessa is you never know, because she's such a wild card weirdo.
Yeah, but then
if I had to
emotional.
guess, I would have to guess that she probably was molested, and that would explain some shit.
Sure,
but I don't want to say that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Hannah's whining about having to pee. Also, both of their outfits, Joe's fashion corner, real quick. Their outfits are terrible. It just looked like Jessa was wearing a series of longer and longer scarves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I will say I've gotten to a point in the show where I don't even like pay attention to Jessa's fashion anymore.
Dude.
Like, it's just like she's just a floating ethereal like spirit.
Yeah, I couldn't tell what she was wearing at all. It looked like I said, it looked like she had a short scarf that like went around her neck. Mm-hmm. She had a scarf that like went around like to her cleavage, and then just like kept getting longer and longer and longer. Yeah. And Hannah was just wearing some kind of like orange, like brick colored, awful dress. And she's whining about having to pee. And then Jess is like, why don't you just go pee over there? And Hannah's like, are you serious? What if I step on the third rail? Because they're still waiting for the train. And
it's a clear shot where there's no third rail.
It's a clear shot of no third rail at all. Like,
you know what's funny about that? It would be one thing if Hannah's character was from New York and only dealt with subways there, but she's not. She's from Michigan. So anytime she's seen train tracks, it would have been outside like that, probably, you know?
Dude, Hannah's obliviousness in this episode.
I mean, it's just a joke, though. So I don't like.
It was a dumb joke that makes no sense. It made no sense. It makes
no sense when you're doing a podcast and you have to break down these scenes.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche. Like, but her obliviousness in this episode, like, just drove me insane. Because there's a moment later on where she's like oblivious to something. I was like, "Are you serious? You would have known that." She goes and starts to pee behind some kind of like electrical box or something, and she's like, "Is anybody looking?" And two old people show up, and Jess is like, "No one's there," and she keeps screaming like, "Is anybody there now?"
She has like a smirk on her face. The thing I thought was weird, I was like, "Why is she doing it not behind it?" But then the way it was set up, I could see that she's kind of behind the railing, you know, like where, you know, so they couldn't see.
Yeah.
So I get it. It was like we could see all of it, but the people standing on the platform couldn't. So I was like, okay. But we get to see Hannah peeing outside.
Yeah.
Because girls.
What a treat.
Yeah.
So then the title card comes, and then they're just sitting by like a stream or something. And Hannah's just like, "Whoa, your dad's like really, really late, dude. Like, what's up with this?" Mm-hmm. And Jess is like, "This is just what he does. He's always late like this. But I'm worried, and I'm like glad that I came because he sent me a text message that was just a bunch of letters, and it got me really concerned, and then he asked me to come." And Hannah was like, and this was my thought exactly. I was like, hey, he could have just butt dialed. Like, this was the era where people could butt dial, you know?
Yeah.
Or butt text. And Hannah's like, yeah, I mean, he could have just butt texted you. And then Jess is like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? That's really hurtful.
Yeah, but also Jessa was saying how awful her dad was to begin with. So, like, why would that not be something that he did?
Yeah, and she's like, he's a flake, and he's always late, and he always leaves me places. It's like, yeah, he would totally butt dial somebody.
Yeah. And I was watching, like, what was the reasoning why she went? She said he invited and said he wanted her to meet the...
Yeah, her dad wanted her to meet his new girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then Jess is like, and I've already met her 3 times. Yeah. It's like, what this makes no sense.
But then, like, how does the butt dial come in? Was the butt dial part of why she's there that day?
I'm not sure. I think it was why she was there that day, and then her dad asked her to come or something to meet his new girlfriend who she's already met.
Yeah, because later, like skipping a little forward, he mentions that he didn't know if she was ever going to show up because she's canceled a bunch of times.
Yeah,
so she's flaked on
later
him.
on. Yeah, later on, it made it seem like Jessa asked her dad to come.
Yeah,
dude, this episode sucks. Like,
I was wondering.
hated that.
I wish I took a bet to see like how long it would take for you to.
Well, we're
eventually
10 minutes.
say that.
Got like 10 minutes in, dude. Like, I hated the Hannah Goes Home episode, and I hate this one much more. This one just sucks. Like, it sucks, and it sucks not because I hate Jessa. It's just there's a lack of continuity. There's none of it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they're setting up stuff and then contradicting it in the exact next scene.
Yeah,
Cause
like, dude,
because he mentions, we might be all out of place here, but he mentions that he's been there for 2 years. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, and then the whole time Justin's like, this is what he does. He just leaves it up and goes. I'm like, he's been there for 2 years. Like,
yeah.
Like, you have gone to see him in the 2 years, and this is the time when he sees you, and then he's like, I gotta leave again. Like,
and there was no inkling of like him leaving again until she was like, "Can't you just stay put?"
Yeah,
and then he's like, "I gotta go."
I mean,
like,
and that's kind of the setup that they had with when they were looking at the penthouses in the bedroom. They're like, oh, I think it's really powerful for a woman to give a man.
Dude, we're jumping.
I know, but it's
the
like, but these points, but these are the points. It's like they're setting stuff up. They say it, and then it happens, as opposed to like you see it and it's a natural progression. It's like you always leave. Cut to leaving. Like,
yeah. But continuing like with the chronological things, so eventually her dad shows up, and right off the bat, as soon as he gets out of the car, I'm like, oh, I totally understand why Jessa is like fucked up. This guy looks like an asshole, and he's got like a hoarder. And then continuing our discussion,
the dad is played by Ben Mendelsohn, who's been a bad guy in almost every movie he's ever been in. So right away you're like, okay.
You're like, oh, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah.
But continuing the shit that doesn't make sense. So he opens the car, and it's filled with like old computers.
Yeah.
And Hannah and Jess is like, why is your car filled with old computers? And he's like, oh, my girlfriend wants me to get rid of them, but I don't want people going through my business, which is like a conspiracy theorist. Like, I understand that.
That would make sense, but he has computer monitors, which don't save any data.
No. And like keyboards.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing, dude? And then Hannah goes, is that what computers used to look like? And it's like, you would have known.
I know. Computers have been around since she was alive. Like,
yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? You definitely had a computer in your, or at least seen one before this point.
She definitely has walked through a library at some point.
Yeah, dude. Or been in a school.
Yeah.
Like,
she's talking as if it's now and she's 15.
Dude, in the chronology of this show, she was 24 and the show came out in 2013, right?
Yeah.
There's no way.
I know.
There's no way that she would have not seen a computer until this point.
Yeah.
Unless this episode somehow took place in like 1984 for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But like, she would be my age. And
she would have seen those in elementary or middle school.
Yeah,
like,
I had them in elementary school. Yeah. We played Oregon Trail on old computers. Oh, yeah.
Oregon Trail, underrated game.
Right?
Yeah.
So good, man. I remember one time I had Oregon Trail 2.
I've never beat that. I always died.
I always died in Oregon Trail 1 at school, but I had Oregon Trail 2 for my personal like home computer. My parents got it for me, and I beat it, and I was so proud. But because I was a kid, like I always put like funny names in.
Yeah.
And the name that I put in was Rod Woodson, because Rod Woodson was on the Ravens at the time, and I like just loved that guy as a player. So I was like, I'm Rod Woodson.
I like how you said funny names. I'm thinking something super perverted. You said Rod Woodson, and that's actually a very perverted but real name.
It's a very perverted name, but it's a real guy.
It's a porn star name, but it's a real... I never even thought of his name like that. Rod Woodson.
But anyway, yeah, so then they get in the car, and they go to their house.
Yeah.
And then, dude, this episode just stinks. They meet... I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. This is going to be a rough one for me to get through. So Jessa and Hannah get to the house that her dad lives in, and they're like walking through, and they're doing some kind of weird accent, and Hannah tries to do an accent, and then she's like, "What are your accents? I don't know what accent you're doing." It must be some kind of English, British.
They were just joking around. It seemed like they had. It was one of those things where you're like, "Wow, she really has a rapport with her dad." They have inside jokes. They joke about the same thing. They're both weird in the same weird way.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right. I'm sure this is gonna go south soon because it's girls and this is the episode. Yep. But
yeah, it's about to be drama. Yeah. Like nothing ever is like happy. It always ends with like every episode of this fucking show ends with people being like, well, I got fucked over, and I guess that's just how it is. So,
yeah, I do like sometimes they go a little unexpected from what I would expect, but this one kind of just played it by the numbers in a weird way. Yeah.
So then we meet her dad's. Did we get her dad's name?
Mr. Johansson is what I heard. Whatever her last name is, but I didn't.
His name, according to Wikipedia, his name is Salvatore.
Oh, okay.
So Salvatore introduces us to his girlfriend, Petula. Yeah. Petula is what Jessa calls her.
Yeah.
And Jessa like gives her a stink eye, and Petula is kind of like, "Hey, I'm so glad that you're here." And then Jessa's like, "Oh, this is my friend Hannah." And then she's like, "Oh my God, I prayed that you would come, and the Lord answered my prayers," or whatever.
Yeah.
And Hannah's looking at her like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So Jessa and Salvatore walk into like some other room, and then Petula says to Hannah, she's like, "No, you don't understand. Jessa is weird with her dad, and she hates me. So I'm glad that you're here because you can be like our cushion," which is a totally reasonable. Which is like a totally reasonable thing. Number one, because it's like a buffer for those awkward interactions.
Absolutely.
And number two, Hannah is literally doughy like a cushion.
I did. It was just low hanging fruit. You had to take.
I know that was like the lowest hanging fruit that I could just fucking get a dig in. But man. So what happened? So is that she's talking to her? Is that when she's talking to her when she's with the bunny? Yeah, she's with the bunny. They have like they have kind of like an own little farm. They got a lot of land, like a nice house, a lot of land. It looked like they farm and have a little garden and stuff. This is like intercuts between Jessa and her dad is like watering the lawn, and he's complaining about it and being like, "Oh, this fucking lawn needs to get watered, and it sucks." And Jessa's like, "Why don't you just let it die and get brown?" And he's like, "I want it to, but Petra's like living thing needs to be treated like well." And they're like bonding over over grass. over like the complaint of having to water grass as opposed to letting it die. And just like, all right, dude, this show, man. And then meanwhile we got Hannah back with Petula. And she's talking, and this is where we get the video game reference, where she's talking about, "Oh, this is all just a simulation, yada yada, we're in a video game." And it seems like she's like complaining about the husband, the boyfriend. Are they? They're dating, right? They're not. They're not married. Yeah. They're a boyfriend and girlfriend. It seems like. And complaining about him
during that.
Yeah, it was
scene.
like a weird monologue that she was just like, the world's a simulation and none of this is real, and I want to get ahead of you, and if you're in my way, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, game over, man. Game over.
Yeah, and Hannah's doing her typical Hannah shit of like, well, what scientific evidence do you have for that being a simulation? Like, you know for sure that it's a simulation?
Yeah.
And then Petula's like, no, because the scientists are all liars and they're covering everything up. I was just like, God.
I was like, oh, man. Okay.
And this is where we first get introduced to a very interesting character who walks out of the house that no one brought up before this scene.
Yeah.
Frank. Who is Petula's kid, I guess, from another relationship.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's as much information we get about him.
Yeah, you get no information.
Yeah.
He comes out with like an old cassette player plugged into headphones, and Petula's like, hey, this is Hannah. Say hi to Hannah. And he just unplugs his headphones. He's like, hi.
Yeah.
It's like, who the fuck is this?
And Hannah's already sizing him up. She's kind of want to play. Like, she's like,
dude.
Yeah.
You know why she's sizing up? Because he's dressed as awfully as she is. He has a fucking red turtleneck, and her compliment to him is like, I like the way that you folded down your turtleneck.
He looks like he's in like an 80s movie or something.
He looks like he should be Napoleon Dynamite's best friend. Because he's got like mom jorts on.
Yeah.
And, dude, so bad.
Yeah, it's what it is. It's exactly like that was a design look, and it works it makes him as weird and strange as he seems. Yeah.
He's just a weirdo for the point of being a weirdo. Like he's like you remember Wedding Crashers when they had the son of the Christopher Walken who was just like a weird.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of felt like. He's this guy.
Almost exactly that character.
Yeah. And
spoiler alert, this kid's probably a little closeted.
That's what I thought.
That's what they get to. That's what I thought as soon as they introduced the other guy that we'll get to.
That's what I thought as well. Yeah. I was just like, oh, okay, he's like, he's gay. Yeah. But he's like, I don't know, I guess in denial or something. Yeah. But he's got a middle part. He just looks, ugh. So Hannah's just like, okay, hi. And then he just walks off. And then they just hand Hannah a bunny.
Yeah, she has the bunny when this happens, I believe.
She's like,
which is fine.
her.
And you knew when she handed her bunny that was going to be for dinner. Like she's chopping in the background, she's chopping up vegetables, and it's not to feed the bunny. So, before dinner, I guess we go to. It's when Hannah's talking to Jessa. And
in the room with the penthouses.
The dirty room. And he's like, my dad never cleans, and he won't hire a maid because he doesn't want anyone going through her stuff. And I'm like, do you clean, Jessa? Like, you're complaining. It's like you're complaining about something that you yourself would be completely guilty of. Like,
yeah, dude. Like a lot of the complaints that Jessa has about her dad, I'm like, yeah, but you do that. You are always doing that.
And I would be completely fine with that if they were pointing that out. Like, because people have that with their parents. Like, we're kind of similar to our parents, and the thing that they do that we do annoys us. Like, so if they were like trying to make that a point that they wanted to do, it's like, you're not so. If Hannah was like, well, you're not so different from him, and then she got really mad at Hannah, and then later she's like, I guess you're kind of right, and they came to a combined feeling or something. That's a typical way a show like this could have come full circle, but this isn't a typical
not girls
show. But instead, because they do it, it's just like you have to wonder what's the purpose of her complaining about the same things.
I feel like they tried to have Hannah be like the voice of reason at the beginning when she was talking about the butt dial, and then Jessa just like freaked out. I was like, what's the point? But Hannah, it would have been, dude, if you and I could rewrite this episode, we would need to include stuff like you just brought up about how like Hannah's like, you actually do the same thing, because that point never gets brought up.
there's never any reflection back on her. It's just like, Dad's the bad guy. Which, I mean, he could be, but like we kind of force him to be a bad guy. But he shows up late and then leaves. Like, that's his arc up. And I'm like, wait, is there any... And then the rest is like hearsay of her talking about stuff in the past. That we haven't seen or witnessed. But in this scene, they're looking through, I don't know, some random room, I guess. Is that the room that they're supposed to stay in, or are they just in some room?
I guess it's the guest bedroom or something.
Yeah, and it's just, there's a bunch of old 70s penthouses. And this is when Hannah's like, hey, what do you think of Frank? Like,
you think that he's like hot in a losery way, or is he just a loser?
Yeah.
I don't remember the direct quote, but it was something like that.
Yeah.
And Jess is like, no, I've never thought of Frank like that.
And we still don't get who Frank is. Like, they don't say, hey, is Frank is Frank your half brother? Where did he come from? Like,
all we've gotten is that like 4-second clip of Frank unplugging his headphones and being like, hi. And then Hannah being like, I like your turtleneck and how it folds down. He's like, that was an accident. And then he just walks off.
And we know
and
that
Hannah's like, I kind of like him.
Yeah. And we know that Hannah's going to sleep with him. That's just about it. Just from seeing him. We're like, oh, there's a guy in the house? Okay.
There's a guy that's not related to anybody. Yeah. Doesn't even have to be gay. Yeah. Hannah has slept with gay dudes.
I mean, she's like, yeah, he's gay. It's fine. Perfect. She's like, all right, now I don't have to sleep with Jessa's dad. I thought that's what we were doing, Jessa. Why didn't you tell me we weren't this wasn't the trip to sleep with your dad?
That's so close to this fucking episode. Dude, if we rewrote this episode, we would have to include that.
I don't think anyone wants us rewriting this.
Oh, dude, I don't think we would want to do that.
Yeah,
if we got paid, how much would you have to be paid in order to rewrite this episode? Yeah,
scale.
Yeah, it's a low amount. What's scale?
Scale is like the minimum for
no
WGA.
I mean, but what do you think?
I don't know what it is offhand.
What if it was like $1,500?
$1,500 to scale?
Yeah,
not for this. It's probably like 10,000-20,000.
Oh shit, dude! Yeah. I would do it. Yeah, I was saying I would do it for $1,500.
Oh, okay.
We're already doing a podcast about it.
You're not. So I was just gonna take the minimum. You're gonna undercut
less.
everybody,
bro. I'm a fucking scab, dude.
you just put yourself on Fiverr. Just like, all right.
I'll rewrite any episode of Girls for you, make it better.
Oh man. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's fucking hilarious.
So let's get out of this bedroom scene into the dinner. But in this bedroom scene, they're looking at the penthouse thing and they tease like, Jessa's. I forget which one is. Hannah says or Jessa says it's so powerful to be a woman and bring a man into sexuality or whatever.
Yeah,
is that a
Jessa?
Yeah,
that's a Jessa thing. She's like, yeah, because you get to be a boy's first look into sexuality.
Yeah,
and Hannah's like, yeah, Jessa says that it's noble, and Hannah's like, yeah, super noble, almost as noble as, doctor, teacher, firefighter, and then she ends with doctor, and then Jessa shows her the porn, and she's like, who says that she's not a doctor? And it's just like some lady with huge tits and a giant bush.
You almost did Jessa right there, but she says it with more attitude of just like, got you, Hannah. Like, don't judge her, Hannah.
Yeah, we also skipped over the discussion of bushes, which we don't need to.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So then we see people looking outside, and you see the dad chasing Petula, and he's spraying her with a hose.
Oh, classic, just like, they get along.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And Hannah's like, they seem really happy together, and Jess is kind of like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they're at dinner. And
they're eating outside, outside the house. They have a table, full spread,
which is pretty lovely. I mean, the house is nice if it was kept up, which her dad doesn't seem to do. It's got a nice yard.
It's that classic upstate New York, like it's that East Coast rural, like yeah. It's fine.
It's nice.
Everyone seems to be having a fine time too. Like Frank's there. I forget what they're talking about during it, besides Hannah complaining about the rabbit.
Yeah, so what they're eating is the rabbit, and Hannah's like, is this the rabbit that we were just like petting with and loving and having a relationship with? And they're like, yeah. And Hannah's like, can I eat something else? Because I don't want to do that, and I don't want to eat your pet. Yeah. And then Jessa just like freaks out. She's like, oh, Hannah, why don't you fucking grow up?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus, that came out of nowhere.
Well, she doesn't go that hard at her. It's not that hard. But I do...
It felt pretty hard.
But I do get it, though, man. I mean...
I get it, but...
It's one thing, like, I'm okay if you want to be a vegetarian, you don't like killing animals for food or whatever. Hannah's not one of those people. Like, she eats meat and everything. But it's weird when people don't like to see where it comes from. Like you don't want to know that it's an animal that you're eating. They're like, oh, pretend like it's something else. It's like, no, that rabbit, that chicken you ate was walking on someone's land before you ate it. Like chicken nuggets aren't just like made that way, you know? So it's just like, all right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, I know where it comes from. I just don't care. Like, I have this one friend who's a vegan, and she's always posting stuff on her Instagram story of like chickens and coops that are all stuffed up in there. And I'm just like,
I mean, I'm not a fan of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, that's brutal. But then I'm like, KFC, what's up? Guy got me some Mountain Dew Sweet Lightning and a 3-piece meal, dark meat.
You're definitely more the fast food guy than I am. But I definitely eat out enough and don't like check I definitely not checking where every where they get their source all their meat every time I order from some place. So I'm definitely not a saint in that regard.
I'm legit probably going to go to KFC after we're done recording this.
You're just
as soon as I said KFC and Mountain Dew Sweet Lightning, I was like, oh, that'd be good.
So you don't even need advertising. You just need to like say it to yourself and it just gets stuck in your brain. You're just so ready.
Pretty much, man. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm a simpleton.
Yeah. You're perfect. They're like, we got another one.
Yeah. So anyway, they're eating at the outdoor table, and it's lovely, and people are having a good time. And then it's out of nowhere, it just kind of takes a turn, it feels like.
Well,
and then things are tense.
Guy shows up. Tyler shows up.
Tyler, the lacrosse player.
Yeah. Who... It was one of those classic things where, like, blonde, kind of fit young guy shows up, and it's like, the dad seems like he's jealous that the mom, like, is friends with him at one moment, and then, like... Hannah's just like, what's going on? 2 guys now?
And they like Tyler and Frank hug, and it seems like affectionate. And then they like kind of hold each other, like they have their arms around each other while they're doing introductions. So I was like, oh, okay.
Well, then he's hugging the mom, and she's like, oh, he's a lacrosse player, and he writes poetry. And then Hannah chimes in that she got the book deal that I guess we'll find out about later.
Well, it's an ebook, Vance.
It is an ebook.
She inked a deal for an ebook.
Yeah. And throughout all of this, Jessa's she's not like phased. She's not like her eyebrow, her brow hasn't lifted. She's not like, oh, who's this guy? She's just like, whatever.
And then Frank and Tyler say that they're going somewhere. They're hanging out, and that if Jessa and Hannah want to join in, they're more than welcome. And then Jessa's kind of like, well, I came here to visit my dad, so... I think I'm going to pass. And then the dad's like, oh, no, I mean, I've got plans with Petula. Mm-hmm. So you guys can do whatever you want. And then Jess is kind of like, you didn't think to cancel your plans?
Well, before that, it's when he says that, it looks like he's making that up. Because he says, like, oh, we got that thing, right, Petula? And he, like, kind of, like, looked at her to give her, like, hey, come on. Go along with it, right?
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
That's what it felt like to me. And it also felt like he was doing it so like, hey, you kids go out and have fun tonight. Because the thing when I go back home to visit my parents, I'll hang out with them all during the day. But like, I'll go out with my friends at night. usually. Like, I wasn't sure how long they were staying there, if this was a day trip or like a 3-day trip. You know, like, it was no clue.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, we just came up to see you and we're taking a train back first thing tomorrow morning. You know?
Yeah.
So I just wasn't sure, like, just hang out with these kids, you know, and then, like, we'll have breakfast tomorrow and we'll hang out all day. Like, I don't know what she needed to hang out further. Like, you know, I don't know. That's just...
Well, it also seems like if her parents are, I guess, in upstate New York, a train ride away, that's not that far.
It's not that far, but, like, even when I was living in New York, I wasn't going back to Baltimore that much, really.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's not that far away. But if I went there, it was definitely longer than a day.
Yeah.
And if I was there, I would definitely see friends of mine while I was in Baltimore. So...
Well, it also seemed like they were definitely going to be there for more than one day because Hannah packed a bag of clothes and it looked like there were multiple outfits.
Yeah. Well, there was no frame given. It was just like, it felt like this moment was like, okay, here's the drama moment. Like, for no reason.
So the dad's like, we got plans, and Petula's like, oh yeah, we have a plan to go see some speaker that it's talking about Japan's radiation and how it's in all of our livers and all this shit.
I zoned out completely when they gave up, when they were saying what they were going to do. It sounds so fake and made up to me.
See, I didn't think so. I thought it was like, oh, this seems exactly like what Petula would be into.
Also seems like Petula hadn't remembered that they were going to do that at all. So it seemed like she was making it up. Also, that is not something that you have to go to.
Yeah, dude.
Like, it wasn't like, oh, we already have these plans for this council meeting, or like, we're trying to figure out how we're going to sell all these computers. Like,
these computers that I've never seen before, and I don't know.
And we'll never bring up again.
God damn, dude. So that's when Jessa kind of like snaps. It's like, you didn't think to cancel the plans that you had? Like, I'm visiting. Your daughter's here. Don't you think that's a bit more important? And the dad's kind of like, yeah, but you always cancel on me, so how am I supposed to know? Like, the last 6 times you said that you were coming, you canceled. It's like, how am I supposed to know that you're coming? Like, I'm not just going to cancel plans every single time you say you're coming because you never come.
Yeah.
And it was a good point.
No,
I feel like Ben Salvatore had a good point.
Yeah, it made absolute sense. And I was like, okay, no one's got the upper hand here.
Yeah. It was just like a stalemate of like, you guys can go hang out with the kids though. Like, we'll still be here.
Yeah, like, parents go to sleep usually pretty early too. Like, yeah. So what are you gonna do? Just like, they go to sleep at 9:30, and you're just gonna sit up and like just go out with these weirdos. Like, you had dinner, finish dinner, meet up with them later or whatever. Yeah. So they go out with these kids. I don't know where were they saying that they were going.
I don't remember, and I don't care.
Yeah, because they don't go there.
Wherever they were going, they don't get there.
or they went there and we caught up with them after it. I have no idea.
Yeah, who knows? So the next thing we see is them driving. Tyler's driving. Jess is riding shotgun. Frank and Hannah are in the back, and everyone's doing whippets, which is so small town high school.
We got some more Cool Whip action.
Yeah, dude. They love Cool Whip in this fucking show, man. Can't get enough Cool Whip, baby.
Yeah, so they're just driving around, and Hannah's in the back with Frank, and Tyler's driving, right?
Yeah.
And
they're also drunk, right?
They're doing whippets, and then they're like, oh, we should have got after they do whippets. Frank is like, I wish we would have gotten some other stuff from 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And here comes Jessa with their magic. That's why she dresses like how she dresses. She pulls out a 40 that she stole from. It looked like that was a 40, right, from 7-Eleven. Yeah. She pulls out a 40 and like Hannah's like, you stole that? She's like, I'm
she's like, it's not stealing if it's from a corporation. I rolled my eyes so hard. And then Tyler's like, I wrote an essay about how corporations are evil. And then Jess is just like, ooh, you're fucking cool. And I was like, this is the most base, awful conversation.
Yeah. Oh, I got to bring up something about beer. They're drinking Schaefer's at dinner and stuff. Schaefer's is one of the worst beers ever.
Yeah,
Yo, if you're going to start drinking beer, do not have your first one be a Schaefer's.
All right. Noted.
That's my beer corner for the...
If I were to start drinking beer, what beer do you think I should start with?
Oddly, I would say either like a Bud or a Miller.
Keep in mind, I have a sweet tooth.
Yeah, I would say like a Bud or a Miller or something like that, just because it's very basic, sweet, not a lot of alcohol, kind of water. Like, it's going to just be a good end to beer.
Yeah. I always felt like I would like Blue Moon because it looks like a creamsicle to me.
You might, but I don't know if you're going to like the orange and coriander flavor to it. It's not exactly what other beers taste like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would feel like I'd have to go like a classic, like a Bud Heavy or a Bud Light or something.
Yeah, just one of those like, okay, this is very baseline low level beer. Like, you're not starting microbrew.
This is
like,
the standard.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was Alcohol Talk with Joe and Vance.
Teaching a 30-year-old what beer is like.
So anyway, then Jessa out of nowhere, she's like, you know what, Tyler, you're fucking cool. You hate corporations too. I like that. And you know what? You're a really good driver. And this whole time that they're driving, he's like swerving and like crazy.
And they're on this like dark, empty street that's just like a straight like and they're just speeding.
Yeah, they're speeding. This would be like a typical Dead Man's Curve situation where it's just like, if this is where everybody dies.
Yeah, if this was the beginning of a movie, someone dies in that accident, and the rest of the movie is dealing with it.
If that scene was the beginning of a movie, it is, number one, definitely a horror movie.
No, it could be one of those like dramas. Like,
you think so?
It could be
like a high school drama,
like one of those ones where like the person's like crippled and like they can't get over their what they caused, and like people have to keep telling them that like, hey, you know, this happened, but you gotta live on, you gotta go on. It could be one of those. It also could be a horror movie too.
I'm sticking horror. I think it's 9 times out of 10 a horror. Yeah. And number 2, it would not be a good movie.
No.
This is like definitely like B movie, Jason slasher horror movie to me. But anyway, so then she's like, you're such a good driver. And he's swerving all over the place. And he's like, really? I think so too. And she's like, you're so good. I think you could do this. And then she like covers his eyes with her hand.
Yeah.
And then he starts swerving even more. And he's like, ha ha ha.
And Hannah's screaming in the back, like, what are you doing? Don't do this.
Understandable.
Yeah.
I'm so on Hannah's side.
And Hannah, I'm like, you've been friends with Jessa this whole time. Like, for a long time. Like, you guys are close. Oddly seem like you guys are closer than you and Marnie. Like, at times.
Like you are taking a trip to see Jessa's family, who Jessa hates.
Yeah. And this is happening, and I'm just thinking to myself, why Jessa are you doing this?
Yeah. Dude. So stupid.
And then we get the like, here comes an oncoming car. What's gonna happen? Yep. And I was just like, I know they're not gonna get in a car accident. I was
I was hoping they would.
I was just like, this isn't that show that does that, you know? I think it'll be a close call. And they don't even make it that close of a call, really. No. It's just like kind of scary and like reckless behavior.
And Hannah's freaking out. But the thing that I noticed about this episode in particular is Hannah has like one volume of voice. Yeah. Like her screaming is just her talking, but like a little bit louder.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene later where Jessa and Hannah are in bed together and Hannah wakes up and then she's just talking in her normal volume of voice. Like you don't whisper or like kind of vocal fry a little bit. She's just like, hey, you look sad. What's up? It's like, it's 3 a.m.
Well, sometimes it's like she's just doing bits.
Dude, I fucking hate her bits.
There's one coming up.
Yeah. So she's screaming. She's like, hey, pull over the car. Pull over right now. And they pull over and she gets out of the car. And they're in the
middle. And mind you, they're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like they just pull over.
They pull over. Hannah gets out of the car and starts running. And then she runs off of the road into what we find out is a graveyard.
Oh,
what the fuck?
Love running into graveyards in the middle of the night.
See, this is why I said horror movie.
Well, that part maybe, yeah.
Yeah. She runs out into a graveyard, and I guess she has to pee again. She's got a UTI or some shit.
Did she go to pee? I don't think she goes to pee.
She didn't? Well, then why is she crouching down?
Was she crouching down in this one?
Who gives a fuck, dude?
I don't. Oh, okay.
This episode's dumb as fuck.
Maybe. Whatever. Let's get to the juice of this scene.
Yeah. So then Frank comes over and he's like, "Hey, why'd you run? We're all I can't remember what he said. All I remember is what happens next, and he kisses Hannah, and as soon as that happened, I was like, if you're a guy in this show, do you have to fuck Hannah?
Everyone loves Hannah. It's like when she went back to Michigan, and everyone loved her.
Dude, and then she went into that guy's house after with the garbage thing. That guy just fell in love with her.
For some reason, I thought Tyler was going to kind of end up with, I don't know. I thought something, I don't know. Whatever.
I thought that Tyler was with Frank, and then Frank kissed Hannah, and then Hannah's like, wait a minute, are you 18? And Frank is like, no, I'm 19.
Yeah.
And then they just fucking go into it. And they start smooching, and they're going hardcore, dude.
Smooching is what I would call what they were doing.
Yeah, dude.
It was a lot of face mush.
Yeah,
together.
It wasn't good.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. And then, so he picks her up, and then they're like on the floor. Then they're like rolling around on the ground. Then we cut back to Jessa and Tyler. And I don't know why they needed to include this, but Jessa asks Tyler, she's like, so all the people on your team, do you suck each other off? And Tyler's like, no. Yeah. And then we cut back to fucking...
Well, it was one of those random Jessa things, but I think it was used to kind of bridge the scene between like the makeout and the sex scene. Like just to change, like I don't think they had a clean cut to like, oh, this happens. It was probably supposed to be another scene somewhere in there, so it was mixed up. So they needed something to just bridge it in the edit. I feel like that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, because it seemed like out of place, and it was like, why would you even go back for that 14-second interaction?
That 14-second 14-year-old joke or reference.
Like who? Anyway, so then we cut back to Hannah.
Actually, kind of we needed it for what Hannah says later too, because Hannah asks, "Oh, did you?"
Oh yeah.
And that we know that she did.
Yeah. So Hannah and Frank are on the ground, and he's on top of her, and they're smooching, and
that will never not be funny,
dude. Hannah does this thing every time. Basically, every time she has sex in this show, she's talking throughout it, and it's not dirty talk. It's just non sequiturs about,
like I said, she's on bits. She does bits during.
I hate it, dude. If I was with a girl that did that, I'd be like, "Hey, stop!" Which is exactly what Frank does. It seems like,
or he doesn't care. He just plows her.
Plows her. Yeah, quote unquote plows her. Because Frank, and here's the thing is, I don't even know if they had sex, because later on they talk about like how he came on her thigh.
Yeah.
And he's like, we had sex. And then Hannah's like, no, we didn't. But then she's like, hey, I had sex with Frank.
Yeah, like this almost goes back to our like hookup and qualifications of stuff. Like this, he had sex with her.
Yeah. If his dick was in her vagina, he had sex with her.
Yeah.
But it confused me, because then when she said, you came on my thigh, I thought that meant that he was like doing some kind of, I think it's called outer course, where like he was like fucking her thighs that were pushed together or something.
I thought it might have been like he just pulled out, and that's what, like when that, like it wasn't like in when that happened, and it was, I don't know. I really don't know.
It was awful.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying. Like, everything in this episode contradicts the other thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So he premature ejaculates and comes on her thigh, apparently.
Yeah.
And then they go back up to where Jessa and Tyler are, and Hannah's like, well, I just had sex with Frank. And then Jess is like, ew, fucking gross. And then Hannah's like, well, didn't you have sex with Tyler? And Jess is like, no. And Hannah's like, I thought that that's what this was. I thought that I was going to hook up with Frank and you were hooking up with Tyler. And she's like, absolutely not.
She's like, I thought this was a sexcapade.
Yeah. And Jess is just smoking a cigarette. And she's like, this was absolutely not a sexcapade.
And Hannah is wondering, why didn't you tell me this? If I knew this, I wouldn't have done. I'm like, so you thought the plan was her cover up his eyes, make him swerve like crazy. You say pull over randomly. You run into a graveyard. Frank follows after you. Not me, your friend. Some stranger follows you.
Yep.
For some reason, Jessa doesn't get out the car to go after Hannah.
No, because Jess is a fucking asshole, dude.
So then Frank goes after her, and then they just wait while it happens.
Yep.
And then,
and then when Hannah said, why didn't you tell me that wasn't the plan? I was like, when would she have told you? You got out of a car and ran.
Yeah, like, oh, you mean when Tyler showed up for dinner and invited us out randomly?
Yeah.
Like, when did...
Dude.
Hannah's such a mess.
Dude, none of this episode makes any sense to me.
Yeah. But
anyway.
I don't even know where I'm at right now.
Now is when we get to Hannah and Jessa cuddling in bed, and Jessa pulls the covers, and she's like, you were hogging all the covers, and Hannah wakes up and she's like, hey, what's up? You seem like you're sad or something.
It's so true.
No lowering of the volume, no consideration. And she's like in Jessa's ear. In Jessa's ear talking at normal volume. And Jessa's like, maybe I shouldn't have come out here. I'm not ready to see my dad. I'm not mentally prepared for this.
It seemed like you were completely fine up until dinner. There was no break. No weirdness until he said, oh, go hang out with these two weird kids. Hang out with your half brother or your I don't know, whoever this kid is, Like,
yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, is that his? No, I guess it wouldn't be his kid. It'd be her kid from something else because he was dating someone else 5 years ago. But whatever. He's like, hey, go hang out. Kids be kids tonight. Yeah. Like, that did not seem like, oh, he's running away. I'm like, he's staying on the house. Like, it'd be one thing if she was like, oh, we're gonna hang out, and he was like, I'm out and I'm leaving my wife behind too, or like my girlfriend behind. Like, he was just like, oh, we got this thing to do, or whatever. Even if he was lying about it, it's like, I don't know. Yeah.
And come to think of it, he probably was lying about it.
Oh, absolutely. But it wasn't. But there was no reason why he didn't want to hang out with her that night. Like, nothing. Yeah,
he also could have.
Nothing was.
He could have invited her to the lecture.
Yeah, and nothing was set up in the beginning where he was like, "Oh, I really don't like spending time with her." They were having a great time. They were doing inside jokes, making fun of Petula together. Yeah, like, I didn't get it. It just seemed like it was a disconnection of why they had a falling out. Yeah. So Hannah's just like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's just your parents. And then Jessa says her fucking classic drama line of, don't act like your parents and my parents are the same. Yeah, and I was just like, they're not, but I don't know your mom. And your dad, I've only seen him show up late with computers. I know he's messy and late. Yeah. Like, that's all I know about him. Dude, otherwise he seems like a pleasant guy. Yeah. Like a level-headed, pleasant guy. I mean, he's complaining about, like, having a water grass, which seems weird when you have that much land. But other than, like... that just seems like typical, like, dad shit to complain about, you know? I mean, nothing completely out of the usual, Nothing where you're like, geez, this guy's a mess. Yeah. Like, so then we get to the next day, and Jess is sitting on a swing set, and the dad comes up with a fucking rockin' 80s outfit. Is he, like, all sweaty or wet or something? He was running. Okay. Oh, he was coming from a jog or something? Yeah, because he has sweatpants on, he has, like, a cut-off, sleeveless shirt, and he's got a bandana on. And the first thing he says is, like, oh, running's going to be the death of me. So that's the only reason why I know he's running. So
he sits down next to her, and they're like trying to have father-daughter bonding moments. And the only thing that I wrote down for this is that eventually Jessa like guilt trips her dad about leaving his previous girlfriend who had a 5-year-old son or daughter or something. And she's like, leaving a woman and a 5-year-old isn't a small deal. Like, that's a big deal.
Huh.
And it's like, dude.
I thought she was referencing him leaving Petula and her mom. No, I thought she was referencing Petula and Frank when she said that.
Oh, did he leave her?
Well, I thought she was saying leaving is a big deal. Like, not. I thought she was referencing like if he was to leave Petula and Frank, it would be a big deal. I didn't know she was referencing a past relationship.
Yeah, because in the beginning of the episode, they talk about his previous girlfriend who had a kid, and her name was Lemon, I think.
Okay.
Jessa said.
When they're like on the train, like before he picks them up.
Yeah. And also she could be referencing him leaving her mom and her.
And that's when they were in London or in England or something?
Who fucking knows, dude?
Okay.
Who knows what this is rereferencing?
Yeah.
Too, because like I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, cool.
But then when she said that, I was like, yeah, but you were like late to your abortion and stuff, and
I was
always leaving.
Yeah,
you're like the worst person ever, dude.
Yeah, when it was like that abortion thing, and then in the first season when she was like, oh, maybe I do want to have kids now, and like it was like one of these weird.
Yeah.
I was like, you're not the advice giver of this stuff.
Yeah, she just leaves people all the time, and she like fucked her ex-boyfriend to like.
And they talk about her. Is this the scene where they talk about her getting divorced, or like her not fighting? That was earlier when they were talking about.
Yeah, they were talking about it earlier.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting.
They also talk about it. Yeah. They also talk about it now, and like she was talking about like. Yeah, definitely earlier she was talking about like, he just said, let's end it. Let's call it like we didn't take vows. It's like, you don't fucking take vows seriously.
Yeah. Did you take vows? Like,
dude,
what was that
you got married wedding? After dating. You got married after dating for 2 weeks to a guy that you fucking hated when you first met him.
Yeah.
Like, so much of this makes no sense, man.
I feel like to me, the issue that I always have is that I feel like they're forcing us to care about Jessa as opposed to letting the stuff Jessa does. Instead of Jessa doing stuff that makes us care about her, they're like having stuff happen to her so that we feel like, feel sorry for her, as opposed to like, but she continually does the bad thing. Like, yeah,
she continually picks the worst thing to do.
They almost died the night before because she's like covering up a guy's eyes and stealing a 40, and corporations suck. And you're like, okay, what? And then now we're supposed to feel really bad for her that this weird wedding, this weird marriage that we weren't invested in broke up.
Yeah. The wedding, the relationship that happened off screen, that we forgot about that guy even existing, and then he just pops up and you're like, oh, that guy? You're marrying that guy?
And then he pops back up and we're like, oh, I guess they're happy. And then it pops back up, I guess they're breaking up. Like, I don't have enough investment in these things, but like, now we have her just being emotional and saying, don't leave, and you always do this, Dad, to the point where she says it and she speaks it into existence, into the show.
Yeah.
Like, I have no concept of why he's leaving now.
Yeah.
Other than because she said it, and now that she knows where like, if he was gonna leave, he could have left 2 weeks ago. He could have left a month ago. He could leave a month later. Like, I don't know what prompts him to leave now. Well, he's like,
but did he leave?
Yeah, that note. Did he leave? Was that note from him or from her?
I thought it was from her. It seemed like very fancy handwriting, and that usually would belong to a woman.
Yeah.
Because she also leaves. She abandons Hannah.
So is that the connection, that she's kind of exactly the same as her dad? Is that she left Hannah?
Dude, she is exactly like her dad. I feel no sympathy. And like, especially on this swing set, when she starts whining and crying and being like, I'm supposed to be the child.
Yeah.
And because she was like, I can't rely on you. And he's like, I can't rely on you.
Yeah.
And she's like, but you're not supposed to. I'm the child. It's like you should be reliable.
Yeah. Like, there's a certain amount of, like, you're not a child, like, at a certain point anymore. Like,
yeah, at a certain point, you also know what's fucked up to do and what's not fucked up to do. Because most people will be like, hey, that was fucked up to do. And all she does is just being like, I don't care.
I thought it back when Catherine Hahn was giving her advice. And, like, she was changing her life, and then all of a sudden, she's, like, getting married. I was like, okay, we're getting a whole new Jessa. Like, not a whole new one, but we're gonna, like, she'll still have her witty quips. Like, 'cause I sometimes like her, like, straight shooting one-liners that she'll give to Hannah or Marnie when they say something stupid, and she'll just, like, cut them down with, like, one line. Like, those things are great. But when, like, when she keeps doing, like, negative stuff for herself, and then somebody else does something bad, and then she goes, this is why I'm the way I am. It's like, I just can't get on board with it feels like we're redacting the character, you know?
She'll do something that, like, backfires on her, and she's like, why does this stuff always happen to me? It's like, because you're an idiot. And you choose the worst things.
And, like, what is the worst thing that like, what did you want this visit? Like, what's the best outcome of this visit? That's my question. Like, what would have made this visit not a problem? Like, if you guys hung out with him at dinner and didn't go out with those boys, which nothing changed from that, really. That was just a Hannah side story. You know? Yeah. So if nothing changed from that going out, you hung out with the dad all night, where was the issue? The issue was that he didn't want to hang out with you one night out of the visit that you came, even though you spent the whole day together?
Yeah, let's assume that they were going to stay for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, having one night out with your, I guess, quote-unquote, kind of stepbrother-ish thing. Yeah. Like, that's not unreasonable to expect.
Yeah, especially, like, hey, especially when you brought a friend with you. Because it's not like you guys are just there, just you and your dad and Petula. You know? Yes. Like, you have a third party there. And, like, anytime I brought friends home from college, like, we could be at my house, my parents, like, we have food and stuff, but, like, at the end of the night, we're going out with my friends, because my friend isn't going to just want to hang out with my parents for, like, 3 days straight. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
or, like, Jessa would go out with Hannah alone. She doesn't have to go out with Tyler and Frank.
Yeah, she would just go to whatever random bars nearby there, and they would hang out and do something.
Yeah, and Jess would probably fuck a townie in the bathroom, and Hannah would fuck some guy that's sweet and awesome and super cool and's got a lot going for her, and then she finds something wrong with him. She's just like, I can't.
Is he a loser or just, like, hot?
Yeah.
But yeah, it just feels like sometimes that we force these, like, emotional moments in there, and you know, they're on the swings in opposite directions. You know, it's like very that kind of thing.
Heavy-handed, ham-fisted. So she's crying, and then she's like, I'm just going to leave. And then the dad's like, wait, no, don't leave. Hey, stay. I'll make bangers and mash. You like bangers and mash. And then she's like, you're right, I do. Okay, I'll stay. It's like, that's all it took?
That's all it took. A way to adjust his heart is through her stomach.
I literally wrote, everything is forgiven with bangers and mash. So then we get Hannah coming downstairs, and Frank is sitting at a table. And she's like, were you waiting for me? Where would she get that from?
Because he's just sitting there awkwardly?
Yeah, like, it's his house. Where is he supposed to...
Do you just sit at your table, though, that way? Like, just with, like... I mean, I guess it's fine, but he was waiting for her.
Dude, he definitely was waiting for her, but, dude, legitimately, sometimes I will sit at a table. Or, dude, sometimes
it's underrated to just sit by yourself and eat or do something.
Yeah, man. Sometimes I'll just lay on the floor. Mm-hmm. Like, I have a couch, a bed, and, you know, all, not to brag.
Wow.
I have a couch and a bed.
Couch and a bed. All right, money bags.
But, dude, sometimes I'll look at the floor and I'll be like, I just want to fucking lay on the floor right now. You know?
Okay. Anyway. I don't think that equates to this, but yeah.
Anyway, so he's sitting there, and Hannah's like, were you waiting for me? And he's like, no. And then she's kind of like, you were totally waiting for him. And then he he's like, I feel like you used me yesterday. And she's like, used you? And he goes, yeah, you used me for sex. And she goes,
I did love that line.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Yeah. But then she's like, used you for sex. You came on my thigh. Which then I was like, did they have sex even?
Then that like threw me off a bit too. I was like, wait, so what was that? So yeah, I get where that would throw you off.
Yeah, so then she's like, wait, was I your first time? And he was like, no, you were my second. She's like, who was your first? And he was like, Rihanna. And he's like, and Hannah's like, oh, really?
No, at first he says a girl.
A girl.
It wasn't named Rihanna from the other town. Like, obviously lying, but.
Yeah, and then Hannah's
like,
I don't know why.
You
had sex with a girl named Rihanna. Okay, she sounds really special.
I don't get why Hannah was so. I don't get why she wanted to prod him on this. Like, it was obvious.
Yeah.
Like, I thought she would be like, it's okay that we did it. You know, like, as opposed to being like.
Yeah, when she's like, was I your first time? It felt like mean and accusatory.
Yeah, accusatory as opposed to like, it's okay. Like, it was your first. Yeah. Like, I felt like that's what Hannah would have normally done. I don't know. Given her, like, sexual history. Especially of having dated and lost her virginity probably to Elijah, who's a gay guy. And we have this whole situation. You would think she would.
Yeah, I feel like she would be a bit more empathetic, like understanding that he's like. As soon as she was like, "Oh my God, wait, I was your first time."
Exactly. I feel like Ray was more empathetic when he was with Shoshana.
Yeah, dude.
Like, seriously.
Yeah.
He took at least he took a moment to think about it and be like, "Oh yeah, it's a big deal and it's fine, but it's the thing." Yeah. You know. Mm-hmm. She was just like,
he's like, I'm gonna teach you a bunch of crazy shit then.
Yeah. She's like, no, you didn't. You didn't sleep with nobody else.
Oh, you slept with another person? Who? You fucking asshole. I was your first time. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's like
Jesus.
Yeah, you made it terrible for him, and
it's like, obviously too, like this guy's confused. He's going through some shit.
Yeah, and then she just did it because she thought that's the plan. That was the randomest plan ever. Yeah. But after that, he goes, oh, everyone thinks I'm in love with Tyler, the guy that he was with. And he's like, I'm not in love with Tyler. Tyler's in love with me, or something. If anything,
he's in love with me.
Yeah.
As soon as he was like, everyone thinks I'm in love with Tyler, I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. And I was like, why is Tyler hanging out with it? Why are there two of you? Yeah. He's got like the lacrosse team friends. He's got poetry club probably.
Oh yeah. He's a poet. Published locally.
And he hangs out with Frank for some reason. But anyway, Frank says that like if anything, he's in love with me, and walks away. That is it. Like we don't.
He's also wearing the worst long sleeve polo shirt I've ever fucking seen in my life. And I think he's also still got his mom jorts on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's hot. It's hot up.
Then why has he got a long sleeve polo?
Because that's the hipster wave.
Fuck this show's fashion, dude. This show's fashion sucks.
Wearing a wool beanie in 90-degree weather?
That's so Williamsburg.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's so Brooklyn.
Yep.
Anyway, so then we get to
but isn't that weird how that scene just ends with him saying that and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Hannah gets no that's just out in the ether. A guy that, you know, the craziest thing is we could see Frank later. He could just move to Brooklyn
and be her roommate. He'll probably show up and might be dating Marnie somehow.
He'll be Hannah's next roommate.
Dude, this fucking
like I'm not even like joking. I'm saying I'm trying to like hedge my bets. Like it's just as likely as anything else. If someone told me that Elijah was going to be her roommate to start season 2, I would have been like, no way.
Yeah, I won't be surprised about anything. At this point,
Yeah.
Like fucking Booth Jonathan will probably move in with her.
Yeah.
And start working at the coffee shop or something.
Because he gets sued. He gets sued for like stealing some artwork, loses all his money, and has to stay with Hannah.
He gets discredited as an artist, and then he's like, "Oh, I guess I have to work at the fucking Grumpy's with Ray."
And then Adam shows up. Because he's like, I want a job here too. And then we have a spinoff. It's just a coffee shop with Booth Jonathan. Called Boys. With Ray, like, Adam, and Booth Jonathan.
Something will happen like Adam will become Marnie's landlord or something. The show fucking sucks.
It becomes a 3-camera sitcom. I would love that.
Dude, we're like towards the back half of season 2, and this show sucks. We got like 3.5 more seasons of this.
It is an interesting. Okay, so what happens? So, the big thing. Is this when she sees a note? Oh no, they go.
The dad drops him off at the grocery store to get groceries, and he's like, "I can't go in there. The manager hates me because I stole something or some shit." Who knows?
Oh, really? Yeah. Of course,
big surprise.
Yeah.
So then they go into the grocery store. Hannah's like, "I'm so glad to buy my own groceries. I don't have to eat your pet rabbit anymore." Then they come out, they buy the groceries, and then they're sitting on the side of the road. And then Jessa just goes, "You know he's not coming, right?" And Hannah's like, "What?"
Yeah, that's like so casually, and you're in the middle of nowhere. Yeah,
you're in the middle of nowhere. Who knows how far away from the house it is? Mm-hmm. But Jess is just like, "Yeah, he's not coming." And Hannah's like, "What do you want to call him? You want to call him? You want to call his cell phone?" She's like, "Remember when I gave my phone to that guy in the Mexican restaurant?" And I was like, "I don't remember that. Did that happen on this trip, or was that where you went with Frank and Tyler, or is this in New York?"
That made me just so upset. It had to be when she was there. At some point when they got dropped off, they went to Mexico. I have no idea. Maybe it was like last night. It was some point during this trip. But the fact that like she just gives her cell phone away.
Yeah.
I'm just like, come on, Jessa. Like
for what purpose?
So if your dad was running late and wanted to text you, he couldn't.
Yep.
So now like. Are we supposed to think he's a bad guy now? Like, what?
Who knows?
And then, so what happens next here?
Well, I think Hannah, like, pulls out her cell phone, and I guess that Jessa doesn't have her dad's cell phone memorized or some shit. So they just start walking back to the house with the groceries, and they get there.
They look like they had groceries for, like... They had, like, a big bag, a lot of groceries for one night if they were staying.
Yeah, it seemed like they got groceries for a cookout, which was what I guess it was supposed to be. But so they're walking, they get back, and then we see Hannah peeing on the toilet. Joy. She's whining and moaning and being like, "Oh, Jessa, it's back. My UTI, it's back. Oh, no, this is awful. I can't, it burns." And then she gets up, walks out. Jessa's nowhere to be found. She's like, "Jessa? Jessa? Jessa?" Goes to get her bag.
If anything, Jessa would have left the room. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to stay in the room while you're, like, complaining about that.
Yeah. Like, so then she's, like, looking around. She can't find Jessa. Mm-hmm. Picks up her bag of clothes, and underneath the bag of clothes, it says, "I left. I'm sorry, love," or something.
Mm-hmm. I just assume, like, for some reason, I, like, forced myself to think that was the dad writing a letter to Jessa, but it was obviously Jessa's handwriting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, like, beautiful cursive.
Yeah. What if the dad just had beautiful handwriting?
I wouldn't be surprised about that either. It could be the dad's. Who knows, man?
Yeah. Wouldn't Jessa's handwriting be worse?
I would think.
Because she wouldn't care.
I would think.
She'd just scribble.
Yeah. No, according to Wikipedia, it says Jessa abandoned Hannah.
Okay.
This is what Wikipedia says about it. Jessa doesn't receive the warm welcome that she had hoped for from her father, and subsequently abandons Hannah after learning about her tryst with her stepbrother.
No, like she doesn't leave because of the stepbrother. The stepbrother stuff has nothing.
Oh, the Wikipedia says that Petula is Salvatore's wife, but Jessa only refers to her as the girlfriend,
and that they've only been together for a few years recently.
Yo, I think Wikipedia is as confused about this as we are.
This is. Every time you read from Wikipedia, I always get more confused about the episode that I just watched. Yeah. It's no way Jessa left because she's mad at Hannah for that thing. She really does not care.
Yeah, she's mad because her dad abandoned her.
But did he leave?
Who knows?
Like, did he leave Petula? Like, when she said he's not coming back, did that mean like he's just leaving Petula and Frank too?
I thought that it meant that he was not coming back to pick them up.
Yeah,
but then when they got back, no one's home, it seemed like.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, what?
I don't know, man.
Anyway. Because I didn't understand why then. What's the point of Jessa leaving without Hannah?
Because Jessa's a fucking prick.
She's living at Hannah's place. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what? You just needed to be on a long train ride by yourself or something? Like,
maybe.
I mean, that's what I didn't get. I was like, it's one thing if the dad just left and it's like, see, this is what I told you, and then she leaves. But I don't get how her leaving Hannah is like it's like, oh man, you're just like your dad leaving Hannah. You know, like that doesn't really pay off because they're just gonna go back to New York together.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't get why she left her.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
I just didn't get the ending to that part. And I don't know if the dad is gone or not.
Yeah, I don't know if the dad's gone or not either.
Where is he?
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, then we get Hannah alone at the train station waiting for the train to go back to New York. And she calls her parents, and this is what I liked this part of the episode.
Yeah, I did too.
Hannah calls her parents and just to be like, hey, I wanted to just call you guys and like thank you for raising me right and like being there and supporting me. And then the parents like don't believe it. They're like, what do you want? You want something. Yeah. Like you don't just call and say that you love us and like that you're happy that we're your parents. Like what the fuck's up?
I love that they were like, you called us 3 days ago. So we know you're not going to call us another. Like, it's normally a week or two between calls. Like, you called us 3 days ago. You must need something. Why do you call us when you're always upset and in a bad mood?
Yeah. And she's also peeing again, it looks like, next to the electric box.
Yeah, and she's giving her dad shit. She's like, you got to talk into the receiver. And I'm looking at the phone. Like, he's talking on the phone like a normal person.
Yeah, I don't understand what that was about.
I know Hannah doesn't know what computers look like, but... She does know what a phone is.
Dude, this fucking episode is so bad. It's so bad.
This one, to me, I just was very confused by the ending. I don't like the forced stuff that they do with Jessa and trying to throw the emotional stuff into it. But it didn't... It kind of flew by for me. It was weird, but it really seemed like a short episode the way I watched it. Because stuff just kind of happened and kept rolling, and it was...
Yeah, it definitely didn't stop. It did feel like it was pretty short to me as well. Yeah. But it felt long at the same time because I kept questioning like, wait, why is that happening? And why this doesn't make sense? And like when I would stop to think about it, I was like, what? Yeah. What is happening? Yeah. It's like a lot was happening and nothing was happening at the same time.
Well, yeah, again, we brought this up with the Hannah Goes Back Home episode. All of this stuff is really non-consequential. Like, like none of this will essentially matter unless Frank starts living with Hannah or something like that, you know? Or unless Hannah is pregnant now because they definitely had sex, no condom in the graveyard. You know?
Yeah, I have no idea.
But yeah, I mean, I don't feel any. I know they wanted us to feel differently about Jessa from this, you know. But I don't, because she did so many weird bad things in it that counteracted the stuff. Oh, I just gave my phone to some guy at a Mexican restaurant. She stole 40. Corporations don't work. Covering the guy's eyes, almost dying. Casually mentioning getting molested as maybe a joke, not a joke. It's like so many Jessa-isms in this. And then the dad is just like, I don't want to hang out with you this one night. And sometimes you're flaky. And then Jessa leaves Hannah at the end, which makes her also look terrible. So I'm like, am I supposed to be on Jessa's side?
And you know what the worst part about all of this is? In the next episode, it won't be addressed at all.
Oh no, because we skip one, everyone. It's every other episode that things get addressed. There's nothing to address in this episode anyway, though. I'm ready to get back to Ray and Adam and Marnie's weirdness. I'm ready to get back to that.
This episode was like a bad vacation.
That was a bad vacation. I don't know why they would have thought. I don't know why they would have thought this would have been a good trip.
Yeah, this episode sucked. That's basically the end of the episode. Is
Marnie and Shoshana in the next couple seasons going to get their one episodes like this?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They all go home at one.
They all get
point.
because we've met Marnie's mom. We haven't met any of Shoshana's parents or anything. We don't know nothing about Shoshana.
Yeah, Shoshana's like, she's the forgotten one of this show, and she shouldn't be because she's great.
So I think we'll end it with this. Like, I remember I was telling you that there was something that we never talked about this show, and we've been so deep into it.
Yeah, what was
it's just like the cast of these girls are all have famous parents. You know, Shoshana's dad is David Mamet.
Nepotism.
Well, not necessarily nepotism, but like their parent, like Jessa's character, her dad was like in Bad Company. Then you got Brian Williams as Marnie's dad, and then you got David Mamet as Shoshana's dad. You know, and like Lena Dunham's parents were like famous visual artists, I think. So like it's interesting that all the girls in the show are like daughters of like famous people. You know.
Yeah, man.
I mean, it's just a thing. It's not like
it goes to show
it's not a critique or anything. It's just like what it is.
Like oftentimes they say that like people that are born with rich parents, like they're born on third base. Like this is the most clear version of that.
Well, I mean, it's definitely like they definitely have an advantage over it, but I don't think any of them. I don't think watching this show that I'm like, oh, this person doesn't deserve this role. Like Shoshana's great in what she's doing.
I think that none of them deserve the role because the show shouldn't exist because it's bad. That's taking it too far. I think it's.
You always say the show's so bad and then try to take it back.
I just think that it's only going to go downhill from here. That's my prediction.
No, I don't think it's going to go downhill. I think it's just going to be crazier.
Yeah.
Like for me, downhill would be like extremely boring. I think some weird stuff is going to happen, which is what I'm intrigued. Like I'm ready for it to go crazy, man. Like,
yeah, I'll be with you on that.
Yeah.
I just think it's never going to make sense. Like that's what I'm saying. I think it's downhill in terms of like this show's never going to make sense, and we're going to constantly be like, wait, why is that happening?
Yeah, I mean, that's just like our perspective on things too. So, you know,
that's why people listen to Boys Watching Girls. They're just listening to two boys watching HBO's Girls.
Yeah, and every time I talk to people about the show, people that even like it, they're like, "Hey, the girls aren't always that likable," and I'm like, "Yeah, they're not that likable."
Yeah, everyone I've talked to has been like, "I like the show," and I'm like, "Yeah, I just find that nobody's really likable," and they're like, "Yeah, nobody is likable." Yeah. Like, what do you like about the show?
Yeah.
Who knows, man? But anyway, that is episode 17, season 2, episode 7, video games. I think we've given enough of our final thoughts, really, for that episode.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to say. I didn't think I'd have this much to say. I'm sad that we said this much.
Yeah, I know. We kind of unloaded. Like, we just would go on. We went off. But, you know, that's what this is all about. So stay tuned for next week's episode, episode 18, season 2, episode 8, titled "It's Back." Who knows?
All right, I'm down.
Who knows what "it's back" means? But maybe this is some foreshadowing in the Wikipedia thing. But the end of the synopsis for episode 17 is Hannah is forced to return to New York alone while she deals with her continuing HPV and UTI.
Is HPV something that like flares up?
Dude.
Okay.
Maybe it's back.
Maybe it's back means Elijah's back. He's the HPV.
But why wouldn't they say he's back? Or like
because he's just the HPV vessel.
Anyway, stay tuned for next week's show.
Wow.
This is Boys Watching Girls, everybody. See you next time.